everybody. I'm so happy that you are tuning in to learn how to make a delicious potato soup today. This recipe has been around for about 10 years in our family, and it's one of those go-to recipes for a family gathering or for a nice chilly day in Ohio. So I hope you enjoy the potato soup. Let's get started. For the delicious potato soup recipe, you are going to need 3.5 cups of diced and peeled potatoes, 1/3 cup of diced celery, 1/3 cup diced onion, 3 1/4 cup of water, 1/2 teaspoon of salt, 1 teaspoon of pepper, 5 tablespoons of butter, 5 tablespoons of flour, 2 tablespoons of chicken bouillon granules, or 2 chicken bouillon cubes, 2 cups of milk, and then bacon, onion, and cheese to top your completed soup. Our first step is going to be to combine our potatoes, celery, onion, and chicken bouillon granules in a large stock pot. We're going to cover that with water and bring it to a boil. We're going to cook over medium heat until potatoes are tender, about 10 to 15 minutes, and then we're going to stir in our salt and pepper. Then, guys, the exciting thing happens. We are making a roux. A roux is a cream base that can be used in soups, stews, and gravies. So what we're going to do is we're going to, in a separate saucepan, melt our butter over medium heat, add our flour and whisk with a wire whisk. We are then going to stir that constantly for about a minute until it thickens, and then we're going to slowly stir in our milk and whisk. We will continue to stir our roux until it is thick for about 4 to 5 minutes over medium heat. We are then going to stir our milk mixture into the stock pot with the delicious potatoes and cook until it is heated through. We're then going to top with bacon, onions, and cheese. Okay. For our mise en place, I have my potatoes out and ready to go, my onion out and ready to go, my celery, my chicken bouillon powder or granules. So as you can see, it's already in the granule format. If you don't have that, that's okay. Go ahead and use a chicken bouillon cube or two to your liking. I also have my salt, my pepper, my butter, my milk, and my flour out for my mise en place. I also have my knives ready to go. My peeler is out and ready to go. My measuring spoons. Over here, I have my roux pot, and I have my stock pot ready, my wire whisk, and my mixing spoon. All right, guys, so I'm gonna go ahead and peel my potatoes. Carefully peel my potatoes, they're a little bit slippery. So I'm just gonna use my potato peeler and go ahead and remove the skins of the potatoes. There's something comforting about peeling potatoes. They have been peeled the same way for hundreds of years, and I just find so much comfort in that. So I'm gonna go ahead and peel my potatoes. Just, again, smooth and away from your body. Once my potatoes are peeled, we're gonna dice them for our soup. So I'm gonna go ahead and pause the video and finish peeling the potatoes, and we'll come back and I'll show you the rest of the veggies as well. Okay, so I have all of my potatoes are now peeled and ready to go. I also have my celery kind of trimmed up and ready to go. And last but not least, I have my onion. So guys, we talked about oxidation a few months ago, and when potatoes sit out in the air, they start to oxidize and turn gray. So the first thing I'm gonna focus on, once these babies are peeled, I'm gonna get them cut and put in my stock pot right away. So let me grab my stock pot. And I have my potatoes. Okay, and then this is a review. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and cut my potato in half. Gonna keep my hand back, cut my potato in half, and now it's on a nice solid surface. So we're gonna do that in half again. We don't wanna dice our potatoes so small that they'll boil away into potato paste. So we're looking at about 1/2 inch size pieces. All right, size pieces, that's about the size we want to go for there. We want our pieces to be uniform. So remember in class when we talked about it, we don't want to have little tiny pieces and then pieces this size together in the pot. This one will be raw, and this one will turn to mashed potatoes in the broth, okay? So we really want to focus on garbage bowl there. About a 1/2 inch pieces. Keeping our potato flat. I don't want to cut it like this because look how wobbly that is. The knife could slip and cut me. I want it nice and flat on the solid surface. We're going to put that in the pot. And we're just going to do that with all of our potatoes. And I'll be back to show you how to do the onions and celery next. Okay guys, so I have all of my potatoes peeled and diced and put into my stock pot, and then I covered them with just a little bit of water, and then I'm gonna go ahead and put my celery and onion in there, and let's get to it. Okay, so I had some of these celery sticks left over that were already prepped for eating right out of the fridge, so that's why they're already small. But we are gonna go ahead and, keeping our fingers back, we are gonna strip these into the julienne. Remember guys, the matchsticks. We want them to be thin matchsticks, our celery here. And then we're gonna just go ahead and take our knife, keeping my fingers back. Remember when we get to this point how I've taught you to kind of just move your hand away from the board so you don't actually get your fingertip in there. We're gonna run that knife just like that. We want all of our pieces about the same size. And get anything that sticks to the knife, make sure you get that off of there. We're gonna dice it, and we're gonna put them right into our pot with our potatoes. Okay, so we're gonna finish up the celery, and I'll be back to show you onions. All right, so our last vegetable to chop and prepare for our potato soup is 1/3 cup of yellow onion. I'm gonna probably use about 3/4 of this onion in my soup today. The first thing I'm gonna do is get the peel off of it. So I have my garbage bowl here. I have my knife ready, my cutting board ready. You guys, I'm telling you right now, potato soup is one of my favorite things to make, especially if I've had a bad day. If I've had a tough day, there is just something about coming home and making a pot of soup and just getting my frustrations out with my chef knife. You chop, you know, it takes some time. Every piece of, every vegetable that I chop on a day that I'm making potato soup, I just really think about my day and think, you know, what could have went better, what could have went differently. And so just some fun facts about that. Okay, so potato soup, one of my favorite things. So when you slice an onion, it's so important. Those lines on that onion, if you run your knife with the lines, you have less tear gas coming out of that onion. So I'm just gonna go ahead and slice this way. And I'm gonna kind of collect my onion if that happens, kind of collect my onion back up. I'm gonna slice this way. Just want that onion to be nice and small. If you don't like onion, you can totally omit this ingredient. But you guys, if I'm an onion person, I've told you in other videos that onions just make me happy. I love the smell of them. I love the flavors they give foods. But you don't have to add onion. A lot of my students that do not like onion, I have them make this in the classroom with the onion, and usually it's a 3 out of 5 star recipe from my students that don't like onion. So give it a try. All right. So once my onion is good and chopped, I'm gonna go ahead and add that to my soup pot as well. So I'm gonna go ahead and add it to my soup pot. Remember, we talked about this in class. I don't want you using the blade on the cutting board. Use the back end of it so you don't you don't dull your knife. Okay? After that, we're gonna take it over here to the oven. I'm gonna turn it on a medium-high heat, and I'm just gonna go ahead and keep it open and let it come to a boil. Once it comes to a boil, it's gonna cook for 10 minutes, and then it'll be ready for the roux. All right guys, so the first thing you're going to need is a saucepan, and I'm gonna go ahead and put my butter down in the saucepan, and I wanna get that good and melted for my roux. So while my heat is on a medium-high heat right now, get that butter good and melted. I forgot to add the chicken bouillon to my potato mixture, so we're gonna do that right now. It's 2 tablespoons of chicken bouillon granules. So I'm gonna go ahead and sprinkle that in here. This is just gonna add some flavor to our soup. And I'm gonna give that a mix. Oh guys, it smells so good. I smell the onion and the celery, and oh, it smells so good. So I'm just gonna give those a mix until my bouillon kind of gets evenly distributed. It's okay that there's a little bit of bouillon powder. As the water heats, it'll totally dissolve. So give that a mix. All right, and then we're coming back over here to our butter. So I'm gonna get that good and melted. While my butter is melting, I have already measured out my milk and my flour, but if you're at home making this, you can go ahead and totally leave this. Just make sure you're checking on it to melt your butter while you measure out your flour and milk. Okay, now that our butter is melted, we're gonna go ahead and add our 5 tablespoons of flour, and we're gonna whisk that. And you're going to see right away how thick that gets, okay? It's supposed to be. And for about a minute, you're supposed to mix this until it's thick. But as you can see, ladies and gentlemen, it is already pretty thick. It's a paste. So once it looks, get it all off the pan. Once it gets thick like this, that's what we want. About 30 more seconds of mixing, keeping it on your medium to medium-high heat. All right, we want it to be good and thick. It's making a gravy, that's what we're doing, all right? And then we're gonna slowly add our milk. This is easier if you have a second person helping you, but if you just slowly add your milk, and then go ahead and whisk it some more. I'm gonna whisk all the lumps out of it. Now guys, I used fat-free milk for our soup tonight because it's for our family, and we, you know, if I were making this for a party, I would use 2% milk, and then this step goes a little bit faster. So as you can see, it's still pretty soupy right now. It's pretty sloshy. But after about 5 to 10 minutes, this is gonna be a thickener for our potato soup. Okay guys, we are back, and I'm gonna go ahead and turn the heat off of our roux. As you can tell, it turned into this beautiful white gravy, and that's what we want. We're gonna add a few more ingredients to this, so come on back over here. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and add our salt and our pepper to this. And a half a teaspoon of salt. Remember guys, don't measure over top of your pan when you're free pouring. It could be disastrous. Okay, give that a good mix. All right. Oh my gosh, that looks so great. Now guys, this is the base for sausage gravy. So if you wanted to, you could cook up some bulk sausage and then add it to that, bake some biscuits. Now you have a sausage gravy. This is also a delicious thickener for my chicken and gnocchi soup recipe that I make. We like it, it's a cream-based soup thickener. So you can use it as a thickener, you can use it as a gravy, you can, this is such a versatile thing. Roux is an important culinary fundamental that most people have the ingredients for in their homes. So if you have flour, if you have butter, if you have milk, you could create a roux. You could put some chop ham in here, some ham lunch meat, serve it over toast. This could be a meal for your family. So let's take a look at how our potatoes are doing. You're gonna need a fork to check your potatoes. So I'm gonna go ahead and look at this, and they are still pretty crunchy. So we want to cook them until our potatoes are soft or fork tender. So I'm just going to leave this here. I'm going to turn it up just a little higher, get that water boiling. Okay, so now guys, we're going to check our potatoes with our mixing spoon and a fork. And oh, look at that, nice and fork tender now. So it's time to add the roux. So I'm going to go ahead and add my roux to my soup. Then we're going to mix it with our mixing spoon and heat it through until the soup is all delicious and creamy. So I'm just gonna give that a mix. This soup is amazing. If you had ham, you could chop up some ham and put it in there. It's also good with green onions and cheddar cheese and sour cream if you want. So there we have it.